but don't sell a dream based on something that isn't true. So hello, Happy Monday, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video. I do actually want to say a quick thank you to you, if you're watching this, to you, for the overwhelmingly positive response to the last video on Brett. I think it's quite a privilege to be in a position where many of you feel comfortable sharing your experiences, and despite how obviously horrible they are to read and how sad it is to understand that a lot of you have gone through many of the issues that were addressed in the video, it's really great that you feel comfortable enough to share them in the comment section or private message me personally. I really do appreciate it, and I think it shows a lot of courage and bravery on your behalf. Thank you so much for everything, and thank you so much for the overwhelmingly positive feedback. This video, a bit more upbeat, a bit more informative, hopefully entertaining, who knows. I'm not actually... Some of you, okay, this is interesting. I see some of you commenting or sending me messages and you're like, I really enjoy your humour. I don't think I'm that funny in videos. If you know me in person, I'm an absolute state. I'm quite embarrassing. On videos, I don't think I'm that funny. But the fact that some of you think I'm funny makes me smile, it makes me happy. So when you leave those nice messages saying, oh Harry, you know what, you are funny, you know, I appreciate you. It means a lot, thank you. Obviously I've got Hannah Montana on the t-shirt today because represent, shout out Hannah, love your series, big fan. Obviously today, arm swings out, which means Natty or Not video. Part 3. Didn't expect people to actually want to see more than one part. I didn't actually expect people to want to see one part, but the fact we're doing part 3 is fantastic. We've got Senada Greca, we've got Sophie, GainsByBrains. We've got Chiara, last name I can't pronounce. We've got Linn Bailey, which is a blast from the past. Tammy Hembrow. We've got Sara Sigmundsdóttir, I'm not going to pronounce it. Look, it's embarrassing because I'm really bad at names. Considering I have 2 degrees, I cannot pronounce names to save my life. I think it's because I overthink things. I get anxious about like how I'm pronouncing words sometimes. I'm there like, ooh, don't want to say it. Even though I probably know how to say it, I don't want to risk saying it because I get scared. Sorry, cracking with the video. So, obviously before we do, something needs to be done. I'm feeling good about this one. I'm feeling bloody good about this one. That was far more difficult to get on than you will ever realise. It's constricting my head and I feel like I'm about to pop like a spot. Cracking on. Why are you doing that? Get out of my way. Senada Greca. Is she Natty or is she not? Great question. Someone I have covered actually in the past. It's a tricky one because ultimately it could go either way. As you can see, she's very developed. She's got a lot of muscle mass. She's very lean year round. And that's something to consider. If somebody was like a machine in the sense that they live the fitness lifestyle, on it with the diet and the training 24/7, 365 days a year, if they've got good genetics, this probably is actually achievable naturally. How many people do actually fall into that category? Angles and lighting play a big part of this because there are sometimes I've seen her where I'm like, there are some, why is it such a small video? There are some videos I've seen from her where I'm like, you know what, the angles and lighting aren't as juicy and she looks far more natural. Then like I said, there are other times I'm like, this is a tricky one. So that does play a big role, and it is quite hard to determine based on what I'm seeing online because like I said, angles, lighting, whatever it may be, do influence how people look. I'm gonna say I'm unsure. It could go either way, but if she was on something, which is a possibility, but if she was on something, it would likely be something to help her stay lean year round because she is consistently lean. She doesn't really go through any like surplus or deficit periods from what I've seen, or many of them at least. Like I said, if she is on anything, it may be something like a PD to enhance fat burning effects like clenbuterol, potentially. Don't get any ideas, please. You a very low dose of Anavel, perhaps, unlikely, but perhaps, or maybe some SARMs. Again, don't get any ideas. I don't like basically saying what I think they may be taking because I don't want you to get any ideas. If you are going to go down this route of enhancements, that is completely up to you, and you must do what is best for you. Please spend the time researching and educating yourself surrounding what things may do, the good and the bad. Get your bloods checked, make sure your health is on point, make sure all the stars are aligned before you even consider going down this route. Health is a priority and health will always be a priority. Sophie, GainsByBrains. She's actually popped up a few times recently. This is a really easy one for me because she's in great shape, she's very fit and she's very athletic, but I don't think she's enhanced. I am very confident in saying I believe that Sophie is natural. I think her physique is naturally attainable, and by that I mean I think the level of muscle mass she has is attainable naturally. I think the level of conditioning conditioning she has is also attainable naturally. Does that mean it's attainable for you? Not necessarily. We all have our shape, we all have our structure, we all have our strengths and our weaknesses. We all look a certain way based on our genetic makeup. You can train exactly like Sophie, eat exactly like Sophie, do exactly the same things as Sophie, but you won't look like Sophie, because the only person who does look like Sophie is Sophie. But I'll tell you who you will look like, which arguably I would say is actually better, and you will look like you. When I was coming up into the fitness industry, and I did often compare myself to those I was looking up to, I felt pretty bad about myself because I didn't look like them. And I spent so much time comparing myself to them, only to realise that at the time they may have likely been enhanced. Again, no proof, just an opinion. They have very different genetic makeup to myself, and regardless of what I would do, I never look like them, despite how much money I've spent on supplements, despite how many stupid training programs I did from silly magazines, I would never look like them. And it's a quite hard pill to swallow. Not looking like someone else isn't a bad thing. Although she's lean, and she's obviously got a good amount of muscle mass, I'm very confident in saying she's natural. The level of muscle mass isn't crazy, it's not wild. It doesn't have that, like I said before, that dry, hard look, where it's like her skin is almost paper thin. She doesn't have that. She hasn't got insane striations and insane definition. That's more of a telltale sign for women on enhancements. Not necessarily the muscle mass, and more so the conditioning. Dry, hard, graininess almost. Everything looks hard. The traps are popping, the rear delts are popping, the upper chest is looking a bit ballooned. Intermission time. Austin, don't even count. This is really getting in the way a bit. Oh, that probably back. If you are liking this video and want to see a part 4, drop a like down below, because 500 likes is the goal, so we will shoot for that, and I would love it if we could get there. Please do consider clicking the red button down below and subscribing to the channel, and potentially even tickling the bell next to it so you get notified when I upload every Monday and Thursday. I know right now you're sat there thinking, I like him, he's alright, but I'm not committed to subscribing yet. I'm on the fence, I need a bit more convincing. Well, hello, here I am. I'm here to convince you. I know you're seeing this, and there's a high likelihood if you're listening to me waffle right now, you're not subscribed to the channel. You've got to ask yourself, what could this man do to convince me to subscribe? And I'll tell you what that thing is. It's actually wearing a pink Hannah Montana t-shirt on camera with a propeller, not really propeller hat. Now I've just won you over with my iconic fashion sense. If that doesn't convince you, I'm at a loss, honestly. I'm bamboozled. And obviously at the end of the video, comment question of the week. So if you have a question you want me to answer at the end of the next video, drop it down below and I shall do so. But nonetheless, intermission is over. We shall crack on with the rest of the video. Chiara. Again, this is another easy one for me. Regarding enhancements when looking at PEDs, based on her physique, she is natural. She is a natural individual. Do I think she may have had any additional work surrounding enhancements done, potentially being like surgical? I don't know. It's not my place to say. If you have or you haven't, you know, you do you. I have no issue with people taking PEDs. I have no issues with people having surgery. Your body, you must do what's best for you. I have an issue with people lying about it by saying you can achieve what I've achieved without PEDs when they have been on PEDs, or them saying you can achieve what I've achieved without surgery when they have had surgery. Be honest about it, or just don't say anything at all, but don't sell a dream based on something that isn't true. Her hip thrust technique is a bit wild, the range of motion's a bit limited there. I think she's ego lifty a bit, although that is very impressive weight and very heavy. Again, it's an achievable conditioning and an achievable level of muscle mass without PEDs. Oh, the big one. It's not really a big one whatsoever, but it's an easy one. Dana Lynn Bailey, someone I used to follow religiously back in the day. I was a big fan of her and Rob many years ago when Dana was competing. Even now, she's in fantastic shape. Obviously, this is Dana from when she competed, and she did actually win the Olympia in the physique category. She's got a lot of muscle mass. She's also extremely strong. With all things considered, i.e. how much muscle mass she has, how conditioned she is, despite the fact that she really maintained a lot of femininity throughout this, I think personally, and obviously considering she is a former Olympia winner, I personally think, in my opinion, again not based on fact whatsoever, it's a million opinion, I personally believe that Dana, at the time of this photo, was enhanced. Despite how well she maintained femininity, which PEDs, because they are very much often derivatives of testosterone, can lead to more masculine features, like almost like the development of some more of like an Adam's apple, changes in jaw like structure, more of a pronounced jawline, sometimes deepening of the voice. There are a lot of side effects that people don't want to talk about, which unfortunately is part of the journey if you do want to go down that route. Certain regions around reproductive areas can experience growth, sometimes hair loss. There are many different PEDs, far more than I think many realise, and they all do different things. Some are preferred when dieting down, some are preferred when bulking up, some are preferred when looking to get stronger whilst not increasing body weight too much or increasing muscle mass too much. There will be side effects, there are side effects of anything, and ultimately how you respond to each PED is very much dependent on you as an individual. What I'm saying here, I do believe, in my opinion, that Dana would have likely been enhanced at the time of this photo. Back in the day, when anyone would ever say, I think Dana is a fake natural, because she does, or did, claim Natty. Rob and Dana, especially Rob, would really go after them. If you get overly defensive, what are you trying to hide? Tammy Hembrow, 13.1 million followers. I know you have 13 friends. Obviously works out, is obviously in fantastic shape. She maintains a good condition year round, and it's great that she does lift weights. Do I think she's naturally enhanced from a PD standpoint, being performance enhancing drugs? I would lean towards, yeah, I would say she's most likely natural. Anything else is not my place to say, really. I don't want anyone to ever feel like I'm shaming someone or speaking like down on someone because they've made a choice. I would personally say I think she's natural, mainly because the level of muscle mass is not unachievable. There are no areas that are really popping, like the traps that read out in the upper chest. Obviously, you know the primary points of androgen receptors. But yeah, I would say I think she is likely not taking PEDs. Sara Sigmundsdóttir, the rest of that I can't pronounce. CrossFit athlete, a very successful one at that. And as you can tell, she's obviously got a lot of muscle mass. Being a CrossFit athlete, I bet she's insanely fit. And that's what I find so impressive with CrossFit athletes, is how fit they are, but also how developed and how strong they are. It's like they tick all these boxes, and honestly, it blows my mind. It's so impressive. I don't know if it's competition season for her at the moment, so things like this where you're like, you know what, you've obviously got a lot of muscle mass, but you don't necessarily looking enhanced. The lighting's probably not as favourable, things like that. But then you go down to her when she is like prime competition, like competition ready, in which you're at your peak, you're ready to go, raring to do bits. Obviously a lot of muscle mass, but look at the size of those traps, and to be that fit as well. I'm going to be straight with you, and I'm going to do this based on a few things. Number one, competing at such a high level, it's not unheard of to be on enhancements. In fact, it's probably a lot more common than you may think. When you are testing, you don't just test for drugs, you have to look for specific drugs. You don't be like, let's look for PDs. You have to be like, I want to look for this one, this one, this one, this one. There are so many different kinds, and there are so many variations of different kinds. Personally, based on my opinion, it's just my opinion, I would very much lean towards Sara likely being enhanced. And this is relevant to the comment question of the week, because I saw this, and this is what obviously gave me the idea to speak about another CrossFit athlete. I'd love to see one of just CrossFit athletes, or a video on why CrossFit athletes, especially women, have such different physiques, solid rectangle trunk, huge traps and abs that look like a six-pack of hamburger buns. CrossFit athletes often have very developed traps and very developed midsection and a very developed upper back, because a lot of CrossFit movements involve either a lot of high pulling, but also a lot of core intensive movements like the clean, the jerk and things like that, which is obviously why their trunk, being the kind of midsection region, is usually so solid, rectangular and almost built. Working the obliques and strengthening the obliques through like an anti-rotational manner could reduce a potential risk of injury when doing mixed grip movements in which there might be some rotation occurring, which then could lead to some imbalances. Bodybuilders are very much cautious of how big their waist looks, so they often try and reduce, really thickening their kind of midsection through heavy loading of oblique intensive movements and things like that, because their goals aren't necessarily that functional and don't require trunk loading. Whereas in CrossFit, it does, and they are probably less worried about having a thicker appearing waist. I hope that you tolerated the video. In fact, actually, I hope that you may have enjoyed the video. If you would like to see a part 4, drop a like on the video and let me know, because 500 likes is the goal. Please do consider subscribing to the channel by clicking the red button down below and the bell icon next to it so you get notified when I upload every week, twice a week. And if you have a question you want me to answer at the end of the next video, drop it down below for comment question of the week and I shall do so. Despite whether you agreed with what I had to say or whether you disagreed with what I had to say, I really appreciate your time. So thank you for tolerating me, thank you for tolerating my waffle, and thank you for tolerating the video.